and welcome to It's Fate. I'm Morgan Barker,
I'm Katie Christiansen.
and today we will be covering chapters 14 through 21 of A Court of Mist and Fury.
In my head, I was like, A Court of Thorns and Roses. And then you said, I was like, wait, we're not
I
reading
almost
that.
just said ACOMAF, and then I'm like, not everyone's going to know what that is, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know either. Well,
Here we are.
here we are. Thank you to all our new listeners that we've been getting. We really much, we really appreciate it, apparently. We are also wanting to do a giveaway.
Woo!
And it's going to go until January 1st. That's the deadline. And Morgan made a super cute tote bag. And we'll post a picture to Instagram.
Yes.
So
all you readers will understand what's on it.
So make sure to follow us on Instagram because that's how we're going to be contacting you if you do win. The whole thing is you need to leave a rating and a review
on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen.
And then if you can just screenshot that and send us a DM on Instagram, then you will be entered to win the tote.
Yay. So we hope you win.
Yes. And before we jump into the recap, I just want to say we do have some spoilers, but not really.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
There might be some foreshadowy things, but we don't get into super detail. So we'll call it out if it comes to.
Yeah, we will. Okay, so we left off with Reese and Farah leaving the palace, wherever they were. Under the mountain.
Oh, wait, there's a fuzz. It's just
fuzz.
It
was a bug. Okay. Anyway, so we left off with Reese and Farah heading to Valaris. And in chapter 14, they arrive. And the first thing Reese says is, "Welcome to my home," which I thought was interesting because when they were in the palace above the Court of Nightmares, he said this was his private residence, but he calls where they are now his home. Farah realizes that there is a lovely, bustling city outside, and she is very confused by this. If you remember from our last episode, she had stated that she thought they were going to be going to some sort of ruin because of Amarantha's reign. Reese explains that nobody can enter the home without permission except for him and Moore, and he grants Farah decision power over who can enter too. And this is just another instance where he is already giving Farah more power and responsibility than Tamlin ever did.
Something I noticed is he said that this home is for his family, while his other one in the city is for business matters. Why do you think he brought her to this one and not the House of Wind?
I think he's trying to insinuate something here that obviously he wants her to work with him, but as we later find out, those who work with him are extremely close to him and they are like a family. And I think he's alluding to wanting her to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's cute.
People start knocking, not people, Faye, working on that. Start knocking and arguing in the front of the house, whom we later find out are Rhysand's inner circle.
I love rereading this and seeing it was Azriel who was the one who woke up Cassian to drag him over to the house.
That checks out.
Yeah. I'm because I feel like we don't really get a lot of Azriel stuff.
I know.
But you see that he does really care, and he shows it in not as verbal ways. But he's clearly excited to meet Farah. And
yeah. And I feel like he's a little bit more responsible. And Cassian's like a big child sometimes. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Farah chooses to go to sleep instead of meet them.
We get a little hint of Farah's feelings for Reese because when she's walking up the stairs, she says that she might have kissed Reese for waiting until she was upstairs before opening the door. And I'm like, you don't say that if you don't kind of want to kiss someone. I
know. You at least have to think we know she thinks he's gorgeous.
The most handsomest man she's ever seen.
Exactly. So she goes upstairs and she presses Nuella and Ceridwen. Did I say this correctly?
I think it's Ceridwen.
Yeah. Okay. I need to change my brain again.
I know. I was saying Cerid and then I was like, oh no, it's Ka.
Nuella and Ceridwen
Mm-hmm.
about how the city survived Amarantha, and they say it's not their story to tell. And as Farah falls asleep, she realizes that she may never be able to endure the sounds of the spring court again, and maybe her never returning is a good punishment for Tam Tam.
Good.
Bye.
I like how she's saying that she hates the sounds of the spring court.
It's like a trauma or like a trigger, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the next chapter, Feyre enters the city with Rhys and sees the House of Wind in a mountain.
Okay, so the first time I read this, I did not realize that the house was actually built into the mountain.
Isn't it cool?
Yes.
Especially if you think of the library, like how deep it would go.
I know, which we learn more about the library later in this book or the next book. I can't remember. But it's under the house, deep within the mountain. But yeah, I always pictured it atop the mountain.
Yeah. When Feyre's looking at the mountain, she says that she feels like a slithering sense of power. Is this like her shape-shifting power wanting to fly?
Ooh, that's interesting. I always thought, so the way all this group talks about the House of Wind is that it's like eerie and nobody really wants to be there. And so I thought it was like something ominous, like a darkness. I don't know, but I like your idea.
She wants to take flight.
Yes.
She gets upset with Rhys that the city was left untouched while the rest of Prythian was destroyed, and obviously other people were hurt because of that. And we learned that Velaris is unknown to the outside world, and Feyre then questions why it wasn't open up to refugees.
So what do you think about this? Like, she got extremely upset, and obviously she's coming from a place where her people, or her fae, I feel like I need another word to describe all of
her
them.
Her old
her
court?
Court, thank you, was not protected. But do you think it's on him to take care of anyone but his own?
I feel like I can understand why Feyre was upset. I think learning more about why Rhys chose the thing he did, you can see why he couldn't offer the city as a refuge. I don't know, it's hard. It's like how do you choose people to protect?
I know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a lose-lose, basically. Like, you're either going to live with the guilt of not being able to protect everyone, or attempt to protect everyone and then maybe live with the guilt of not being able to protect your own court as well as you could have. It's hard.
It is hard. So Feyre notices that nobody is gawking at her or even seems to recognize her at Rhys's side. And she also notices that few acknowledge Rhys, and those that do, they're very warm, and Rhys knows all of their names.
Yeah, this is such a stark contrast to how the Fae viewed Tamlin in the Spring Court, and just shows a very different leadership style to the one Tamlin chooses to embody, which is more of like fear-based, power-based, dominating.
It's very interesting because we get like tidbits that Tamlin loved his dad, but like also feared him in a way.
Yeah.
But yet he still enacts the same type of power role over the Spring Court.
It makes me think of that concept of when you say, I don't want to be like this person, or I don't want to do this. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're so fixated on that you focus so much on that you actually become that, rather than saying, I want to be whatever the opposite is, and focusing on being that opposite. You know what I'm talking about?
I do know. Or I'm thinking of when sometimes people can upset me, but it's because certain qualities remind them of qualities of myself that I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
So I can see that. I can see him falling into that.
Yes.
And not knowing how to escape that pattern.
Yes. And I can compare it to Reese too, because we find out that his dad wasn't necessarily a loving, kind High Lord either. But it seems like he focused on what he wanted to do instead.
Yeah.
And became that. Whereas all we hear from Tamlin is, I don't want to be like my dad.
But he does want to be like his dad at the same time.
Yeah, because then he's like, but this is the way it's done. This is the way my dad did it. This is the way I'm always going to do it. I just think Tamlin is so lost.
He is.
He's a little baby.
He is a baby.
Just a baby.
So Reese takes Feyre to the artist. How do you say this word? Quarters?
Quarters. I probably spelt it wrong. Quarter.
A quarter.
Yeah, like an area?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
Morgan didn't spell it like a Q.
It's spelled with a Q.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I spelled it like C-O-U-R-T.
like a court.
Yeah, exactly. I did it on purpose.
Okay. So she goes to something called the Rainbow, and Feyre realizes that what might have come alive here inside her is now replaced by an empty cell. So looking at all these artists, she's like, ew.
Yeah, it doesn't spark what the joy that it could have in her previously.
We learned that Reese's inner circle consists of Fae named Amren, Mor, Cassian, and Asriel, with Amren and Mor being his second and third.
Yes, this is another major contrast to the Spring Court. Females in power? What an idea!
Did Tamlin even have a third?
We know nothing about his court.
That's true, we don't.
That's the thing. It's like, who even lived there?
I have no idea.
Other than Lucien.
I don't know.
Because Ianthe doesn't really count.
No, and she doesn't live there full time.
No.
Right? She lives in wherever their high priestesses live.
Yeah, she has her own separate, she's like a consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that when he's telling her about his court, he suddenly, but not so suddenly, mentions that he's the most powerful High Lord in Prythian's history.
Yeah.
I was like, are you trying to brag a little bit?
A little humble brag. And I kind of forget that detail. I know that I remember at this moment he's the most powerful, but the most powerful in history?
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's impressive.
Feyre learns that Amren is even more frightening and powerful than Reese. She waits to feel this fear of Amren, knowing that, but instead she starts to feel this relief at the idea of being ended. Which is really sad.
I know. I'm laughing because I'm uncomfortable.
Reese was able to sense this and immediately told her to never think that again. Suddenly, Feyre is in Reese's mind and can see just how frail and starved of life she is. And Reese is surprised that Feyre got past his shields and tell her this power probably came from him because he can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think you would feel about having these new powers? Especially one where you can enter someone's mind.
Okay, obviously I have the outside perspective of not having that and seeing this world where others do. I think it would be so cool. I think it'd be so cool. Especially coming from the life that she did.
Yeah.
Where she had no control and no even mortal power to make a true difference in her life. And now to be like, I have powers? That's cool.
I think it's cool too. I don't know if I would want to read someone's mind though.
No, that would be scary. And I would also be scared of having the ability to shatter someone's mind.
Yeah.
Like Reese does every time that was described in the first book, I would get nervous of thinking about how only a thought could shatter someone's mind. That's too much power for me. But a little ice throw, a little flame on the fingertips, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we learned that the Fae with power to enter minds are called Damati.
Oh, okay. So I looked this up.
Okay.
It's I don't like it.
Okay.
Dimati.
Ew.
I know.
Dimati.
Dimati.
They know the tea.
I guess they do. Good one.
They do know the tea.
And I looked it up more than once to confirm. Dimity?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan, but I'm working on it.
Rhys flies Feyre up to the House of Wind to meet his friends.
Okay, this is a little embarrassing. Throughout reading this book and the next book, there are many instances where either Asriel, Cassian, or Rhys are picking someone up and flying them somewhere. I have always had the hardest time picturing how they carried them. And then rereading this scene, I'm like, it's obvious. They're literally carrying them.
Like a baby.
Like a baby.
Mm.
And I have pictured it in so many very strange ways.
Like what?
Like, okay, I need to put my mic down for this.
Okay.
Can I use your mic?
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's my arm. It's flat, palm down. This is the flyer. And then the other person is just like this. And then I pictured them like this. And then I don't know. It was just really difficult for me.
Yeah, like they like a Titanic hug.
Yes.
That would be scary.
But sometimes facing each other.
Oh, intimate.
I know. But I don't know why I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's like a baby.
Yeah, it was very obvious this time reading it.
Well, now that you know, you can picture that better.
Yes, it's much better for my brain.
When he's carrying her, Feyre mentions how Rhys smells. And he smells like rain, salt, and citrus. Which sounds yummy.
I know. I love in these books how there's always like a scent associated with somebody. And I've been trying to figure out my husband's scent.
Oh, my husband smells very earthy.
Okay, I feel like
and I love it, obviously.
Trying to discover this morning. I feel like it's vanilla mixed with like beach.
Ooh, what a wonderful smell.
I know. I don't feel like I would smell it if he entered the room like they do, where it's like, he must be somewhere near me. I smell the pine or whatever. But yeah.
No, my husband, I would say, smells more like earthy, like kind of like rain, I guess.
Ooh, that's cute.
Yeah. I wonder how I smell.
I don't know if I want to know.
Okay.
Remember we talked about the smells? I'm not a smell gal.
So Feyre admits to Rhys that she realizes she may have been a fool for not insisting on seeing more of the spring court, and that she maybe fell in love with the first creature to show her any kindness and safety, which I am all here for. Feyre talking about her feelings finally.
Yay! Okay, so chapter 16 is long and exciting because we get a lot of details about the inner court. Feyre meets them in hopes of deciding whether or not she will work with them in the war with Hybern. We learn about them and their backgrounds. None of them were under the mountain. Cassian is described as beautiful, large, with rough features, and shoulder-length black hair, which is interesting because I feel like I forgot about that detail.
Me too.
In almost every fan art I've seen of him, he has more of like a light brown hair.
Yeah, but it's dark.
So, he commands Rhys's armies. He has red siphons on either hand. He is what's called an Illyrian and has wings.
I did a little name corner.
I love this.
Of what each of their names mean. So Cassian means the son of Cassius, which is interesting since Cassian doesn't know his biological dad.
Seems like it would be obvious. It's in your name.
I know, but I'm like, it means, okay, in Latin, it means hollow or empty, which is hilarious.
It is, because he's definitely not, but he's seen as like just this brute, like this dumb brute.
But he's really not.
No, he has so much to give to the world.
Yeah. Okay, but in Irish or Welsh, it means curly-headed. And again, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she just liked the name Cassian.
I think so too.
Because all the other names, I'm like, oh, I can see it. But this one, I was like, this is a weird choice.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. The siphons are used to concentrate their power and allow them to use it more precisely. Something else I thought about when we found out that Cassian is the commander of the armies. Do you think Tamlin has armies?
No, I think We find out, I think, in the next book that he does have like some type of army, but I don't know if he has like a large like standing army or anything like that.
I think the Night Court has the largest army, but we do find out that other courts have armies.
Yeah.
It just feels like Tamlin was always fighting and protecting alone.
We wouldn't know. He doesn't tell us anything.
I know. Cassian is a bastard of a poor female Illyrian who refused to name his father, like Katie mentioned. And bastards in this culture are given nothing and are expected to fight for and find their own food and shelter to survive. So sad.
Yeah.
Then we meet Asriel. He is described as more classically beautiful than Cassian, but unreadable, like even light itself shies from his face. He is Rhys's spy master. He is also an Illyrian with wings and has blue siphons on either hand. He is the bastard of an Illyrian lord and is what is called a shadow singer. He is known for stealth and being able to hear/feel things others cannot, which is a rare gift.
So in Hebrew, his name means God is my help. In Abrahamic religions and Sikhism, it's Azrael is a benevolent angel of death who carries souls to the afterlife, which I'm like, that is absolutely Azrael.
Yeah.
When checking, I noticed when he was like checking out more, we literally see a little shadow like curl around his ear and whisper him that Feyre is like watching him. I thought it was like weird, but also like kind of cute that you can have like shadows whispering to you.
Yeah.
You don't feel the same way as I do.
If I picture the shadows as like cute little cartoon Casper ghosts that are miniature size, yes, very cute.
Yeah, that's how I'm picturing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I have a really hard time picturing him with the shadows and picturing his gift. It's really hard for me to understand. But I like it. Like, I'm curious about it.
Okay, something I noticed with Azrael and Cassian, they both have hazel eyes, right?
I don't know.
I think they both have hazel eyes with tan skin and dark hair. And I'm like, could I be an Illyrian?
Oh my gosh. We were trying to cast you.
I know. I could be Emery.
I love that.
Thanks. I just noticed that while I was reading.
Ooh, I really like that. Okay. That's a good one. A little bit more about Illyrians. They are a breed of fae, but they're also like their own beings. They don't really call themselves high fae, even though they kind of look like it. They're described as barbaric brute warriors with twisted views on treatment of others, especially females. They cripple their females to prevent them from becoming warriors. Disgusting. They have war camps to train the male warriors starting at the age of 8. Cass, Azrael, and Rhys all met at the same camp and bonded over being outcasts.
You know what's like crazy is they're literally taking out like half of their forces because they're so misogynistic.
Sounds not that far from reality sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, Amren. Amren looks high fae, but has a deeper, darker presence to her. She is short with silver eyes, which I always forget that detail.
Me too. It's hard to picture.
Yeah, but it's fun. Smooth black hair. She is obsessed with jewels. And we find out she was born as something else. She doesn't eat food like everyone else either.
So in Welsh, it's a boy's name, meaning son of Bedwyr. I don't know how to say that, but apparently it's from the Legend of Arthur.
Ooh.
And so Amren, he was a chamberlain and protected Arthur's bed and attended him in the mornings.
Okay.
Which I don't really know what that means.
Yeah, I'm like,
I think he just helped him get ready.
I think so.
So Amren went on an adventure with Arthur and got beaten senseless by a hag. So I don't really know. I don't know how that connects to Amren.
Just like Amren.
Will she get beaten by a hag by the end of the series?
Who knows? Oh my goodness. Okay. We learn a little bit about Mor. She is the only pure-blooded high fae in Rhys's court. Even Rhys is only half. She was born in the court of nightmares. We get a hint that she has some sort of power, but we don't know what it is yet. Yeah, do you want to tell us about her name?
Yeah, she's a very interesting, it's a lot. Like if you want to like really deep dive, you can really deep dive into her name.
Ooh.
So the Morrigan is a figure of in Irish mythology who is a triple goddess, but she can also be referred to as an individual. But it can also be like a reference to like the three sisters.
Okay.
Her name translated into modern Irish means Great Queen or Phantom Queen. She's associated with war and fate, especially with foretelling doom, death, or victory in battle. And she's a guardian of territory and people. Some legends claim that she's a shapeshifter, a banshee, or a seductress.
Three-faced goddess from Throne of Glass? Question mark?
Oh.
I don't know. That's what it makes me think of.
It does, especially if she's associated with war and fate and like battling. Interesting.
And even shapeshifter, banshee, seductress, they talk about the three-faced goddess being somebody really young, somebody in their prime, and then somebody older. And I feel like, I don't know.
Is she the young one?
I don't know.
Interesting. There are some connections to the Scottish holiday, Samhain, which we see celebrated in Throne of Glass. So there's some connection. Yeah, it's when it's like the fire one where she gets like.
Oh, yes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. Okay, Rhys's parents. We learned that his mother was a lowborn Illyrian who delayed her bleeding so she wouldn't be clipped. And when it finally came, his father happened to winnow in for a war meeting, saw her, knew she was his mate, and misted those who were going to clip her.
Crazy.
Yeah, and by misted,
who knows what that means?
It just means
they're gone.
Turned into blood mist. It's terrible. Terrifying. Even though they were mates, they did not love each other. And this is kind of our first indication that mates doesn't mean love, which is a little hard for me to understand because being a mate is described as like the deepest soul bond you can have. And I have a hard time separating that from love. Like, why, if your souls are so connected, why wouldn't it coincide with love? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. That is very strange to be like matched with someone and realize that you aren't in love with them, but there's something in you that like really wants to be with them at the same time, kind of.
Yeah. Like, why would you be mates then?
I don't know. The cauldron is
mysterious.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Rhys became High Lord, his father's court did not like his inner circle, and those who did not die now live in the Hewn City, which is under the mountain and called the Court of Nightmares. And this court in Valaris in Rhys's inner circle is called the Court of Dreamers.
I love it.
Me too.
Two sides of night.
Yeah. Cassian offers to teach Farah to fight, and she asks about it sending a bad message.
I love that when she says that out loud, she realizes how dumb it sounds. I feel like sometimes you say something and you're like, why was I repeating that narrative over and over in my head?
Yeah.
When I actually say it, it's stupid.
And sometimes it just takes saying it to somebody new too.
Yeah.
Moore encourages Farah, and she's already seeing that Ianthe was maybe never a true friend, and Moore really could be one, which is really cute. Farah agrees to work with them. Rhys announces that Hybern wants to bring back Jurian, which if you remember from the first book, Jurian is the one whose eyeball was in Amarantha's ring.
Lovely.
And they need to figure out how this can happen. And to do that, they need to go to a place called the prison to talk to the bone carver. During all of this knowledge that we gained, there was a subtle timeline here that hints at Rhys's age, which we were trying to figure out last time. He was 8 when he was dropped off at the camp. And 20 years later, his dad came to see if he was ready for war. And if it's been 500 years since the war, he's approximately 528 years old.
Damn, he's lived a long life.
I know.
So we know that Tamlin didn't fight in the war, but he was a child. I wonder if like his maturity level like shows how he handles his court, right? Like I know he's not like that much younger than Rhys, but it seems like, I mean, they age so slow. It seems that the maturity level would be a gap.
But even if, let's say he was 5, right? That would still mean he's 505.
I know.
Like,
but is it like,
old.
Is it like, you know, me as a 28-year-old and me and like comparing a 5-year-old? I don't know.
That's true. That's a good point. I know. I really wish we had more. I want like a very specific, like every 70 years is 1 year in human life, or whatever it is.
Or like, when do they mature?
Yeah.
When is their frontal lobe fully developed?
Yeah, when are they considered fully formed adults?
So in the next chapter, Rhys tells Feyre that he only had enough power to keep one city protected. So he chose Valaris since it was already hidden from history. And it meant less minds he had to control to forget about it and his inner circle. And he lives with a guilt that he couldn't protect more or do more every day.
Do you think it would have made sense to choose a city that wasn't already hidden or already somewhat protected?
That's a great question. I feel like it is a really good alternative to what he did.
Mm-hmm. Not that he did something wrong.
No. But I think that is something that he could have maybe considered.
Mm-hmm.
But as we find out, it was kind of a split-second decision. Like, it was...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything happened quickly.
Yeah, but that is really smart to hide.
I'm smarter than the most powerful High Lord in the history of Prythian.
You don't have more powers, but...
Yeah.
You're smarter.
My brain's bigger.
Feyre has another Amarantha nightmare and wakes up to Rhys shaking her and calling her name.
Tear.
And he holds her hair while she vomits and tells her about a recurring nightmare that he has about her too.
The fact that he held her hair back, it's like disgusting romantic.
I know.
You know?
No, I love it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think it's so romantic, even though vomiting
is not
at all.
There's something very intimate about you being so sick, or so, in Feyre's case, like so emotionally ruined, and having someone just like hold your hair back and like pat your back.
Yeah, it's every girl's dream.
It is.
And this is very different from what we saw from Tam.
Yeah.
Tampon. The internet calls him Tampon. Although I watched a TikTok the other day where this guy called him Blandlin.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
I like that more than tampon.
He said because tampons are actually useful.
Wow, that's a good one.
It was profound.
Why do you think Rhys is so mature? How did he?
I don't know. Actually, okay, I do have a thought. I see Rhys's community and his found family, and it's so different from Tamlin's. Yeah. I know Tamlin has Lucien, but there's like safety and strength in numbers, and we're not made to be alone. And I think when you are alone and when you are in isolation, it can be very dangerous, and you can grow so much more when you have people holding you accountable and lifting you up and helping you through things. And I think that really makes a difference here.
I also feel like Lucien is not viewed as Tamlin's equal, unlike a lot of the Night Court. Rhys holds their opinion equal to his own.
And we do know that Rhys really loved his mother, and he had a great relationship with her, and it seemed like she was very loving and really encouraged a positive emotional well-being in Rhys. We don't know much about Tamlin's mom. I know he really loved her, and it seems like both had, a really harsh father with a softer mother, which is kind of a classic trope, but we don't know much about Tamlin's mom.
Yeah. So they arrive at a barren, deserted mountain that houses the prison.
Yes, and Rhys shares that it's been there since before Prythian was Prythian. And at that point, it was Mor's family, not his, that ruled the north. So even though it wasn't Prythian yet, there were still Fae, and Mor's family was ruling. And I don't really remember learning about how this power shift took place or anything more on that. Do you?
Me either.
There's so much.
I know.
That we could have little side stories for. Now I want more book.
So Feyre cannot bring herself to go into the prison because it makes her think of Under the Mountain, because it is literally like in a mountain.
Yeah.
So they leave, and with no questions asked. He's just like, yep, we're going.
Whatever you say.
Yeah.
Chapter 18, Amren gives Feyre an amulet that she claims saved her from the prison, and suddenly they are back at the prison. I feel like that happened really fast.
Yeah.
We learn Azriel's backstory as they're walking into the prison. He was the son of a lord and had 2 older half-siblings and a cruel stepmother who tortured him, which is how he got his scars on his hands.
Where the heck was his dad in all of this?
I don't know. It's weird because... And where was his mom?
So I remember his mom was allowed like visits like once a week for an hour or something like that.
It's really weird that he was a bastard and his dad still took him in, but then allowed such harsh treatment. You would think that his dad would just be like, bye, you're on your own with your mom.
That sounds better than what they did to Azriel.
Yeah, I agree. Rhys helps calm Farah down as they're walking, and she gets scared and tells her more about Amren while they're holding hands.
I love it.
So cute.
It seems weird that they're just freely talking about this while they're in there because he warned her not to say anything.
I had the same thought. He's like, don't say anything. Everyone's listening. And he's like, let me spill all these things about my friends.
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah. He shares that there were rips between worlds that allowed anyone to walk through from one world to the next, but the rips could close and trap the creatures, which makes me think of in Throne of Glass, Maeve, and the Demon Kings walking between worlds, and I feel like it was described very similarly.
Absolutely. Yes.
I need to know the connection. Rhys explains the prison. His blood is keyed to it as it's within his court. Nobody can free the inmates except the prison itself, but we don't know how Amren was freed. Rhys can sentence beings here as well. They meet the bone carver, who can have a different appearance for anyone looking at it. Farah sees a little boy, and Rhys sees Jurian. Rhys gives him the calf bone Farah used to kill the worm as a form of payment. How did he know he was going to need this?
I don't know. And like, where did he get that? He just like stole it?
I guess. Like winnowed down there real quick.
I have no idea.
But I don't know. I just feel like plans were already in motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The bone carver will answer questions if you tell it a secret. So Farah tells him what happened when she died and where she went, which was super intimate.
I thought it was really interesting that someone who is immortal is so interested about death, especially someone who can see and predict people's death. And I wonder if it's a little foreshadow that the bone carver has always known how he would die.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense because he wants to know. He's very obsessed with like, was anybody there? Was there another world? Did you know that you were like, were you conscious of anything? What did you see? As if like he's going to go there too and he needs to be prepared.
I love it.
Yeah.
Mortals, immortals, we don't know what happens when you die, really.
Exactly. So. The bone carver seems to be able to see the future, and it's like he's all-knowing. So I'm curious what the difference between his knowledge and the knowledge of the Suriel is.
I have no idea.
It would have been maybe easier to just catch the Suriel again.
Yeah.
I know. And I kind of was thinking, is this just a way to introduce another character?
Probably.
And the bone carver is more powerful because he's like this weird being thing. The Suriel is just like a fae monster.
Yeah.
He's different.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. And then we get the first like calls to like, which is just a phrase that's used often in the story. And I think it, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it refers to like made things, like things that are created, being called to other things that are created.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I also think it's probably like a reminder for Farah that she's a good person. She's probably attracting good people around her. I don't know.
Oh, that's sweet.
Something I just thought of.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little proverb. Farah and Rhys learn that the King of Hybern has resurrected Jurian, and he wants to use him for an ancient spell book called the Book of Breathings. And it's interesting, the Bone Carver really started offering up a lot of extra information about the book without being given a new secret. And I feel like he felt for Farah after she bared so much of herself.
The monsters love Farah.
They do.
The Suriel loves Farah. The bone carver.
Everyone loves a main character. Half of the book, so the book is in two, and half of it is in the summer court, and the other half is with the mortal queens, which we find out there's 6 of them, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to nullify the power of the cauldron is to put the book back together, and it can only be done by someone who is made, which Jurian was made again. That's why the king wants to use him.
I love how we have 2 scary monsters that just love gossip. The cereal and the bone carver.
Can you imagine having them over for tea?
I would love that.
Me too.
They'd be scary to look. Oh, the bone carver might not be scary to look at.
I feel like I could get used to the cereal.
Just don't look and it's like scary
Black gums.
black gums
with no lips.
Yeah, don't do that.
But, you know, we grow to love it.
Yeah, I love the cereal.
The cereal.
The cereal. I love cereal.
What's your favorite cereal?
The tea kind.
Aww. Oh my goodness.
Okay, Reese and Feyre go back to the townhouse and they catch everyone up on the hot gossip. And they think that Feyre might be able to track down where the book is, the one that's in the summer court, since she has all the High Lord's power and like calls to like.
There it is.
So in order to test her tracking abilities, Reese has a test for her and asks her to get back something of his that is at the Weaver's cottage.
Yeah, and it's funny because he's saying this in front of his whole court, and everyone seems to know what this test is before Reese even finishes explaining it to Farrah, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
They kept like eye rolling him and giving him these looks, and some people were like, "No, don't do this."
So. Well, she's scary. I don't blame them.
Yeah,
she's terrifying.
We can't wait till we get to her description.
Yeah. Feyre becomes the emissary of the Night Court for the humans, and she agrees to try and convince the mortal queens to give them back the other half of the book. I love how Feyre is back to being delusionally confident that she can do it. Because I'm going to be honest, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, I don't think I can do it.
I know. But then look at all she's done.
I know. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. In the morning, Reese picks her up and prepares her for the Weaver, and we learn that the Weaver is blind. Mm-hmm. She is a hoarder. Mm-hmm. She is super strong and super old, and the High Lords can't really do anything about her.
Yeah, she's in like this neutral zone. Mm-hmm. It's like foreign waters or something.
Yeah. We also find out that Reese taught Feyre to read so she could read the book, the Book of Breathings, if she ever agreed to work with him.
So we know that it's been 2 months since the first Night Court visit, and suddenly she's just like fully literate and can read like any other adult.
Yeah. It's very believable.
Totally.
I wonder if it would be different for someone to learn how to read as an adult, if they would progress faster than a child.
I feel like things take longer as an adult because your brain isn't as malleable. You know, like learning a second language, it's so much easier and it sticks quicker as a child.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't learned to read as an adult, so.
Learn to read a different language and get back to us.
Okay. I'll let you know.
In French. Do you know French?
I do. Oui, oui.
Okay. Reese tells Feyre that if his suspicions are true, that she'll be able to sense that the object belongs to him and be able to know what it is, because she doesn't know what it is yet. Mm-hmm. And like he put a spell on it so that it has like the same imprint of him.
Interesting.
Yeah. And Reese helps Feyre put on some weapons while he's kneeling in front of her and then calls her his savior.
Yeah. Whoa.
I forgot just how like perfect he is.
That's like such an intimate jump.
Yeah. I think she feels it too. She's like, wait, why are you literally like kneeling in front of me, holding my thighs?
And
like,
saying you're my savior.
I mean, it's kind of true though.
It is, yeah. But it's very bold.
He's a bold guy.
He is. Reese winnows Feyre to the neutral strip of land in the middle of Prythian, and they flirt it up out of nowhere.
I know. Okay, is this the first scene where Feyre is like really openly flirting with him?
Yes. And did it feel out of the blue to you?
I was just like, wow, she's just really open right now.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. I love flirty banter. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was the whole kneeling thing. I don't know.
That would make me flirt.
Now everyone knows how to get Katie to flirt with them. The Weaver's cottage is described as very perfect and pristine, with the Weaver singing beautifully inside while spinning thread. But she's a hoarder, so there's stuff everywhere too.
Do you ever find out how the Weaver gets her things?
I don't think it was implicit, but when I read it, I thought she collected them from the people that she takes.
Okay, I thought maybe maybe that could be a possibility as well.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Okay, the Weaver sings, and her song, we get all the lyrics, and they're kind of disturbing.
They're gross.
So I looked it up, and it's based on an old English folk song from the 1600s called The Miller and the King's Daughter. And it's about an older sister drowning the younger sister, only for her body to be found and made into an instrument.
Ew.
Yeah, by the miller. And when the instrument is played, it like speaks and tells the story that her parents are actually the king and queen and her sister killed her.
Do you feel like the Weaver is a little bit talking about herself? Because she also uses people.
Like she's a miller?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm wondering if she, like, this song is, like, based on her a little bit. But it's folklore, so it like, changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like everything like that, if the author's going to use a song that is based off of something, it's for a purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially a song.
Yeah.
Songs are hard.
Yeah. Farah realizes the thread the Weaver is spinning is flesh.
I don't.
And there's just jars of flesh thread everywhere and like hair thread. And so that's what I think she takes people to weave them into her loom. And then she takes their belongings.
What does she make with them?
Her loom stuff.
I know, but it's
like rugs. Isn't that what people do on looms?
Oh,
or like decorations.
Well,
fleshy decorations. Gross. Yeah. Okay. She starts thinking about Reese and how similar they are, and then she feels his object calling for her. And anytime we're allowed into Farah's thoughts, which is very often since she's the main character, she is constantly about to head down a very dark path regarding everything with Tamlin and From Under the Mountain. And even at this time, thinking about Reese leads her to thinking something negative about herself. She's just sad. Farah sees the ring, but when she picks it up, the Weaver stops singing.
This scared me.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Very frightening.
So the Weaver turns around and we get a full look at her.
It's terrifying.
Okay, so she has a young body with dark black hair.
And the word supple is used to describe her body. And I don't know why, I just don't like that word.
I feel like whenever I hear the word supple, it's not used in a great context. It's like objectifying to me. That's what I think of in the word supple. Like,
I don't know why. I just am like, you know how people don't like moist? Moist doesn't bother me. For some reason, supple does. And maybe it's that. Maybe it's the connotation of it.
Because supple means like curvy, right?
I think so. I don't think there's anything wrong with the definition.
No.
I'm trying to even think of when I've heard it used.
I don't know.
It just didn't. Yeah, no.
So her skin was gray and wrinkled and saggy, though.
So a young body with a wrinkly, gray-skinned face.
Her eyes were rotting black pits.
Lovely.
And her mouth was a hole with jagged stumps.
Yum.
Sarah J. Maas loves her jagged, holy mouths that have stumps. She's always describing them as like stumpy or like
weird mouths.
Yeah, I don't like that. So out of all her creatures we've encountered so far, which one do you think is the scariest for you? And I have the Naga, the Bogue, the Worm, the Bone Carver, the Cereal, or Water Wraiths.
This is hard. I feel like... Oh, do you want is the Weaver in there?
Yeah, and the Weaver.
Okay.
Sorry, the Weaver too.
I would say the Weaver or the Worm. The Weaver because of what she does to you. The Worm because of how large and fast it is. I feel like it would be harder to kill. The Bogue, I feel like, was pretty easy. I don't know why they just didn't shut their eyes. Although it's all terrifying.
Yeah.
And the Cereal, I want to come over for tea, so.
Yeah, and the Bone Carver seems like a little sweetheart too.
Yeah, and the Water Wraiths didn't bother me.
No.
And I mean, the Naga are scary, but it just felt like, in terms of size and speed and skill, if I were a Fae, I would be able to combat them.
Yeah.
What about you?
I agree. I would say the Weaver really terrifies me because she is so strong and fast. The Worm really terrifies me just how like big it is.
Yeah.
I'm very, very terrified of being eaten alive. That's my
Is that your fear?
it's my fear.
Would you rather be eaten alive or have your flesh weaved while you're alive? Is that possible?
I think I would rather be eaten alive. At least it's fast.
Yeah.
But I don't like that, like my body being
Used
like that. I don't. So
yeah.
I have a really hard time with the worm. It really terrifies me. I don't
so scary.
like that.
Okay, so when Farah picked up the ring and then the Weaver turned around, Farah like doesn't immediately go into action. Like as soon as I heard, well, hypothetically, I've never been in this situation. As soon as I would have heard her stop singing, I like to think that I would immediately ran.
I don't think I would. I think I would be like
paralyzed
with fear.
That's probably what I would do. I just like to think that
you would take the Weaver down.
Fighter. Are you kidding me? We have already determined, Katie, we would have died in the forest at 11 or 14, whatever.
So the Weaver can't figure out what Farah is while she's getting closer to Farah. Farah has this moment of really wanting to live. And she throws a candle at the Weaver's threads that she has threaded.
Her flesh threads.
Yes. The Weaver starts freaking out and Farah climbs up the chimney, but then the Weaver starts climbing up like a spider, which I'm going to be honest, I hated this description. I could see it clearly in my head when she's like...
It's like demonic.
It is demonic. Yeah. Farah gets her little fire back and she's so mad that she ever let anyone make her feel weak, and she throws a brick at the Weaver's face and gets out.
Get it, girl.
Yeah. She gets covered in the hair that is on the Weaver's roof. I know.
And don't forget the smell of the flesh thread.
And the fat like sticking to her.
Oh yeah, she said there was like fat in the chimney.
Yeah.
Oh, so she probably burned the
oh.
Well, I'm just really curious. She must have had to skin them.
I don't want to think about that.
Okay, we'll move on.
And so Farah gets out and she's covered in the hair, and Rhys winnows them back to the House of Wind. And of course, Farah is super mad at him.
Yeah.
And she accepts Cassian's offer to train because she's like, I'm going to be strong.
Yeah. I will never be caught in a position where I'm weak again.
I love it.
Yes.
We find out that the ring Farah got was Rhys's mom's ring that his mom purposely gave to the Weaver so that Rhys wouldn't waste it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit of a spoiler alert that we discover later in this book. We later find out that his mother gave this ring to the Weaver so that only his future bride and or mate would be able to retrieve it, demonstrating that she was strong enough for her son. So do you think this task had more to do with that, or more to do with the point of her being made and finding the book?
I think it was very convenient for Rhys to see if she could get the ring.
Yeah. Because there's no way he would have been able to convince her to do it otherwise. Like, let's go have this fun adventure in the woods.
Yeah.
And just go to this cottage and see if something calls to you. Like, no. But there was a purpose here.
There was a purpose. And I think he was like, once he found out that like she could maybe find something that he had, I think he was like, I have the perfect opportunity.
Yep.
And actually works out really well for him.
I know.
Okay. They go to the townhouse, and Rhys tells her that training her powers is also part of the job now. And he tries to get Farah to read his mind, but she can't get past his shields. I love that when she like swiped his shield away, she felt like this. She said it's like a purr, like a cat. Like it's kind of sexual. Yeah. So Rhys shows her how 100 years ago, Ianthe tried to seduce him and even grope him.
No.
Which he says a lot of the other high priestesses also use sex and sexual harassment to gain power. Again, we have examples of women in power who use sex as a threat to men. Which
men in power do that now, you know? Like, it's so gross.
Yeah, Farah realizes that Ianthe was doing this to Lucien, and that's why Lucien didn't seem to like her that much. So, do you think Tamlin and Ianthe have ever had sex?
I feel like this comes up at some point in the books.
I don't remember.
And that it's a no. At least we're told it's a no. Why do I feel like
I feel like it's also a no, but I wasn't sure.
Like she confronts him about it at some point, but who knows? It could be a lie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of our recap. Lots of good stuff in this section.
A lot of information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a little minor connecting the cosmos. The amulets. In Throne of Glass, there are multiple amulets that have some kind of power. And I just thought it was interesting. I don't think we see it at this point in Crescent City, but how there was an amulet that Amren gave to Farah. And I just was like,
yeah, it's this idea that these like necklaces can hold power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to do some MFK.
Okay.
With some of the Night Court.
Okay.
I have Cassian.
Okay.
Moore and Azriel.
This is extremely difficult.
I know.
And unfair.
I know.
I'd rather have monsters. Okay. I think I would marry Cassian.
Okay.
I'm kind of... Ooh, this is really hard.
Okay. I know.
Because I'm a little scared of the shadows. But I think I would F Azriel and kill Moore.
I'm also in agreement with you.
Yeah. It's a hard choice, though.
It is a hard choice, but I'm not scared of the shadows.
Ooh!
I'm really interested.
All right.
As you can tell, I'm very excited for Azriel's point of view.
I know.
The next ACOTAR book.
I think the next one is about Elaine, so I'm sure we'll get more of Azriel.
Yeah.
Okay, well, our next segment will come out next week, and we'll be covering chapters 22 through 27. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media. TikTok is at It's Fate Podcast. Instagram is at It's Fate Pod. You can also watch our videos on YouTube at It's Fate Pod. And don't forget to keep an eye out on Instagram for our giveaway.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.